this. Reading, writing, arithmetic. I get asked these questions all the time as a child development specialist. I'll never forget, I had a girl come in to my booth. I was speaking at a conference in Texas, and she came in and she was really crying. And she said, I just heard your talk, and listen, my 4 year old is not reading, and I don't know what to do. And people are judging me because my 4 year old is not reading. And I just said, hey, take a deep breath, and said some other things to her. But I was like, oh, 4 year olds in the US are expected to read 5 year olds, but that is not what brain development says. Brain research shows that children receive reading with ease between 5 and 9. What? In the US, people will be like looking at you like, oh yeah, you homeschool. No, 5 to 9. So the brain can learn to read before 9, or when it's ready. Sometimes there's actually a change in the brain that happens so it can receive it sooner, but you can work around it. Like, you can force a child before they're ready to read, but here's the risk. If you force a child to take on something before they're developmentally ready, you are risking damaging their central nervous system. And you're risking them hating to learn. One thing I know about homeschoolers, you want what's best. That's why we do this. We didn't choose the easy route. We choose homeschooling because we think it's best for our family, best for our children. So give them time to fall in love with words. Give them time to fall in love with reading. So how do you do that? Well, you start with words. You start with talking. The minute you know that baby is here, or I adopted a lot of my kids, so wherever, you start talking. The minute you get them, talk to them. Tell them everything. Tell them about the world around them. Tell them as you change their diaper. Tell them as you go outside to the car. Tell them as you're going about your day. You're talking. You're putting your phone away and you're communicating because you're building their vocabulary. You're building their language skills. By doing that, you're getting them ready to read because they're learning words have power. The other thing you do is you read great books. You find repetitive books, right? We know those repetitive books like The Napping House and Goodnight Moon. Why do you read these books? Because they are books that the kids can memorize and they get confident, and then they can read them as well, right? They can go, oh, I can read Goodnight Moon, Goodnight Moon, Goodnight Red Balloon, Goodnight Cow That Jumped Over the Moon. And you're like, oh my gosh, you're a reader. And they're like, yep, I can read. And they take The Napping House and they can read it. So that's why we read predictable books, Brown Bear, The Very Hungry Caterpillar, because our kids can learn to read those. So we want to read that. We also want to read good books that tell a good story, that help kids be curious, like You Will Always Belong, an affirming book. How fabulous. Such a beautiful book. One of my favorites, Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge. Miss Nancy Allison Delacourt Cooper is his friend he meets in the nursing home, and he helps her find her memories. How great is that? That's going to stir up your child to be curious, and maybe they're going to ask questions about their grandparent or some old person they know that's older. Maybe they think it's you. I know, I'm in that place, and I need my memories. So this is going to help your child get excited about different things. Listen, when your child is interrupting you too, just side note, you're not building a disrespectful child. You know what you're doing? You're growing a curious child. Let them be curious. Let them ask you questions. We want them to ask us questions about books because that curiosity can lead to them maybe making their own book. Make a book relatable. If something's going on, have a book about this. This book is very relatable. I just got this book and I gave it to my grandchildren a few weeks ago when I was there. This book is written by Carrie Vosick and her cousin, who happens to be an astronaut. Anna Menon. And Anna actually went to space a few weeks ago. You might have seen it. And so we read Kisses from Space, and then 2 days later, we got to watch Anna read this book from space. And so then you could take a blank book and say, all right, let's make a book about space. What if you went to space? How would that be, Henry? What would you do, Sarah? What would you do, John Michael, if you went to space? And then you invite them to title it, what would yours be? What pictures would you use? Do you want to draw your pictures? Do you need magazines to make your pictures? And then you tell me the words and I'm going to write them down exactly as you say them. Because you don't want to correct a child at this point. You want to let them express themselves. That's one of the most important pieces. Words have power. You want to give power to their words. And then they can read their book. It's another way to build confidence. Get them excited about reading. You read your book. recently, my grandbabies, they wrote me a book for my birthday. It was pretty fabulous. She wrote the words herself. I don't know if you can see it. I love Nana. L-U-V, love, inventive spelling. Pretty fabulous. And then she put some pictures. She drew some and she used magazines. She knows I love birds and sushis. Sushi. She knows me well. Right? Words have power. They get to be an author. This builds confidence. This is a great way to get them to fall in love with reading. And if none of this is working, you bring out the phonics and you're like, sit down, we're going to do some phonics today. And they're like, then the tears flow, then your tears flow, and you're like, forget this. Y'all, they're not ready. They're not ready. Put the phonics away and go get more books. What is your kid passionate about? I remember one of my older kids. He was a reluctant reader for sure. But boy, did he love superheroes. So we went to the library and we checked out every book on superheroes we could find. And we read book after book after book. Until finally he wanted to take some of those books and try and read them himself. And then he's showing me signs of readiness. So we get the phonics book back out and there's not as many tears because he's ready. And now that man, he's a grown man, devours books. He still gets so excited when a new book in a series that he's reading comes out. And he'll stay up all night still as an adult and read. And read. How fabulous is that? Fall in love with reading. If you do that, this is going to be just a natural progression for them to get them reading. You're not going to have children who cry over reading, who hate reading. They're going to understand that reading can take them anywhere. I had an aunt one time tell me the story that she used to love her geography book. She would take her geography book and she would climb in a tree and she would sit in that tree and she would read her geography book and she would imagine all the places she could go that she was reading about. And she said that was my favorite thing about reading, is that I could just go anywhere that my imagination would take me. Isn't that delightful? Isn't that what we want for our children? Hey, listen, if your child struggles with, they want to move while you're reading and that's, you're like, what are you doing? Give them something in their hand. Let them have Play-Doh or let them have water beads or let them have slime, something to manipulate, and that will help keep their brain busy, but will help them focus on what you're reading. Read and read often. Read and read more. Read and continue to read. Let them make books. Let them read their own stories. Let them read your predictable books, the books that matter, the books that are relatable. These are all great books for reading. And then you'll be surprised. You're like, wait, they're reading. What happened to the 4-year-old? He's now a 13, 14-year-old reading all the time, everything, confident, excited reader. He loves it. That's what we want. Curious, confident readers. Let's move on to writing. So writing, similar. You rush it, it's going to be a bad experience. The minute you start seeing them pick up things and move it, you want to strengthen those skills, those fine motor skills. How do you do that? You do that through moving activities from one to the other. You do that through giving them tweezers, letting them pick up things and move that one to the other. This is how we do it. We want to just move stuff and move stuff. Dough, heavy dough, clay, mud. All those are fabulous things for strengthening the fine motor skills. Those, strengthening in that, will give them the ability to hold their pencil. The other thing you want to do with writing is you want to focus on the creative aspect of writing. When they are younger, that is what they're doing. It's the pre-literate stage. That's what we call it, child development, scribbles. They're scribbling. That's awesome. Honor their scribbles. Don't be correcting their scribbles. Tell me more. Tell me about your scribbles. You might not say scribbles. Tell me about that. Oh, are you writing a story? Do you want me to write the words? Would you like to write the words? Okay, I can write some words for you. And you write it exactly as they say it. When then at some point they're going to want to take that book and they're going to write it. And what happens then is they're going to maybe do their name first because they can do that. I can write my name. And then they move into inventive spelling, that transition phase. They're not quite fluent, but they're more than emergent. I mean, they're kind of emerging. So they start doing that. That is great. We want inventive spelling. Don't correct that. This is the time we really want to be working on creative writing as well. We want them to be telling their stories. Back to making books. This is why books are so important, because it gives them power. Words mean something. Never forget Henry. Henry came to me one day and he's like, Mom, I'm so hungry. Like, I'm just so hungry. Now, Henry was hungry and thirsty like 24/7. So I was teaching the older kids a lesson, and he came in with his friend Lucy, and they were hungry. So hungry. So I said, Henry, how about you and Lucy go make a book about how hungry you are? And then when you come back, we'll finish the book and then we'll go get something to eat. This will give me time to finish my lesson. That's what I'm thinking with the older kids. So he does that. He goes into the school area where we had school stuff. And listen, I always had art things out for them. I had construction paper, and I had plain paper, and I had staplers, and I had glue, and I had magazines, and I had scissors, and I had pencils, and I had markers. Have all that stuff. Have a writing area so they can go just whenever they feel comfortable and confident, go try it. So he took green construction paper and he cut out pictures of all this food. It looks very similar to Titus's here. And he came back. And I said, oh, Henry, let me write the words for you. And he said, I am so hungry. If I don't eat right now, I think I will die. Once I eat all of this food, my belly will be full and I will be so happy. I wrote it exactly as he said it. And then we went and made him some food. What a great way, writing. He expressed his emotion. He was so hungry. He put it down by cutting. He used his fine motor skills. He cut and he glued, and then he told me the words. And he wrote his name on it. I'm so hungry. We titled it, I Am So Hungry by Henry. It is so important that you do that. Their name is the first name, about the first word they're going to want to write, by the way. So have sentence strip. That's a great way to do it. You can have sentence strip. You can write all the names of people in your family, your pet's name. You can laminate it, and you can give them wipe-off markers, and they can wipe it off and erase it and try it. Keep it in a basket in this little learning center that I was talking about, the little writing center. Let it be relaxed. If you start out with, here's your copy work, and we're going to copy this every day, guess what? Hate it. Tears from both of you. Remember, if you force a child before they're ready, not only will it damage the central nervous system, I already said that, I know. It's worth saying again. Not only will it damage the central nervous system, they're going to hate it, hate learning. We don't want that. We want kids who love to learn. So give them the time and the space to write about things that are important to them. The technical writing will come. Let them copy things they care about. I remember another time, this is also Henry, we had met Ben Watson. I was speaking at a conference in Louisiana, and Ben Watson, football player, if you don't know, he played for Georgia. He went to play for the Saints. He's now a commentator. Ben Watson was there. His family used our curriculum, and so they came to hear me talk, and Henry was so excited to meet Ben Watson because he's a major sports fan. So he got to meet Mr. Watson and take a picture with them. And so when we got home, I said, Henry, why don't we write a story about you meeting Mr. Watson? Do you think there were any tears in that assignment? Not one. Okay. And so he went and he wrote a story about meeting Ben Watson. That is what we want to do. Make writing fun. There's no reason it should be drudgery. You guys, something they're interested in. We all learn best when we're interested. So try to make writing a time where they can write about things that are interesting to them. And you will see a lot of success with that from the get-go. Even in their copy work, we would make up funny sentences. I would let them make up a funny sentence to do their copy work. I would say a word, they would say a word, I would say a word until we made a sentence, and then they could copy it. Play is a beautiful way to teach. Lastly, let's move on to math. Finish up with that. Y'all, math, do you know math forever was taught in the home? It was taught as you go. There wasn't formal math. It was just, we just did math. We just did math to survive. You had to know how many of this you needed and how much of that you wanted and what the measurement was. So think about that as you go with your young learners. How do you do math as you go? Listen, when they're real young, they probably can't work a measuring tape, or they can't even understand what a ruler is. But you know what they do understand when they start? They understand toilet paper. You can measure using toilet paper. Hey, Mom, how many squares are you? Hey, Dad, how many squares are you? Even your dog, how many squares is my dog? How many squares is this computer? Give them a roll of toilet paper and let them measure and compare things. What a fabulous game, a fabulous way to measure for a young child. Listen, we all have piles and piles of laundry, right? When we have little kids. Let them help you sort the laundry. Let them help you match the socks. Literally, match the socks. Whose socks are bigger? Your socks, my socks. Whose socks are smaller? Whose socks are longer? Whose socks are shorter? These are all math skills that we need to know. Give them the opportunity to do that through math. Cooking, kitchen is probably one of the best, easy way to teach math. Get them in there with you. Let them see what is the measurement needed for that. How much of that do we need? Is there more of that or less than that? Oh, we need 2 eggs? Okay. I have 1. How many more eggs do we need? Oh, as you go. Math is probably one of the easiest things to do as you go. You can make games. I received this fabulous pack of butterflies from Insect Lore. If you know that company, they sent me a butterfly kit as a thank you for something. You can make a game out of this. We can make a story out of this. We can make a game out of this. We could say I could take 1 butterfly, add 2 more. How many do I need? Put them on postcards. You could put it in a book. You could say, do any of these match? I don't think they do, so it might be hard to make a matching game, but you could make a number game out of it. Find things around your house and think, what can we make a game out of this? How can we make this fun? I remember another time I was speaking at a conference and a dad came over and he said, hey, can you go look at this other curriculum for me? I mean, I know it's not your curriculum. Sure, I don't mind. I'll give you my opinion. Absolutely. We go look at this curriculum. It was a math curriculum he was looking at for his 4 and 5-year-old. I remember looking at it. It was a picture of a mouse that had a triangular piece of cheese, and the instructions were, color the cheese yellow. Color the triangle yellow. And so I said to this dad, I said, okay, so how long is it going to take your child to color that piece of cheese yellow? And he said, I don't know, 2 seconds? I'm like, at most, right? They're going to scribble that. And I said, what do you think the chances are that your child is going to understand the concept of a triangle from coloring that cheese in 2 seconds? Not very likely. Children need a lot of repetition to get a concept. They need more of it if it's done on pen and paper. If it's done through play, you don't have to do it as many times before the brain can recognize it. But if it's done on paper, you're going to need to do it a lot. 20, 40, a lot. So I said, do you think that's more effective? Or what about you just said, today is shape day. Today we're going to recognize as many shapes as we can as we go run our errands, as we go outside, as we're in the house. We're going to just do a shape game. How many shapes do you see? Look, I can look just on this screen and see I've got my circle here. I've got a rectangle behind me. Shapes are everywhere. Do you know how many times it'll take to get that concept across if you do it that way? Not nearly as many times. So is the pencil paper worksheet bad? No. I'm not going to say it's bad. But again, is it best? No. And do we as homeschoolers want okay, or do we want best? And if you want best with reading, with writing, and with arithmetic, you need to do it through play. You need to do it relaxed. You need to do it through curiosity. You need to do it as you go. You need to make it part of your day. Give them permission to take it slow. Give them permission to build their confidence as they try to read. If you do it, you're going to have children who love to learn. If you have questions, you can email me, Kathy at Kathy Eggers. You can DM me on Instagram at Play Skillfully with Kathy Eggers. And don't forget to follow me there and also follow Homeschool Curriculum Fair, because I am giving away over $500 worth of stuff. Our curriculum, our year curriculum, our summer curriculum, the homegrown preschooler, 101 easy, wacky, crazy activities, some water beads, a mug, a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, a hat, and a 1-hour chat with me. We can talk about anything you want with your children and see what I can do to help you through. Again, I don't know everything, but not only am I a child development specialist, I've been homeschooling for almost 30 years. I've been doing this a long time with a lot of different children, and I would love to encourage you.